Everybody needs to panic. Everybody just go outside, let out a big scream. The unthinkable has happened, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get people in. Welcome all. Those of you from Columbus, from Oregon, wherever you are, on the OSU channel, the Big Ten channel, the Oregon channel, the TV channel. I don't care where you are, where you're coming from. We need to have a discussion, people. And I want to hear what you have to say, because for all the Buckeye fans out there, this is an unthinkable that has occurred. Ohio State has lost at home to Oregon 35-28. The first loss at home in 4 years, and the first regular season loss in Ryan Day's head coaching career. And it comes at the hands of a very good Oregon Ducks team. So welcome all. We'll get people funneling in. We're going to have a conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We're having a talk. We're having a talk. We need to have a discussion, because what has happened, what has transpired is insane. I never thought I'd see the day. When you're watching Buckeye football in September, you think to yourself, all right, here, it obviously has nothing related to Oregon or whatnot. But usually when you're sitting watching Buckeye football in September, what are you doing? You lay back. It's noon on a Saturday. You're having a good time. Oh, OSU's up 50-0 after the first two quarters. All right, I can go about the rest of my day. But not this time. There was an OSU game in September that was stressful and nerve-wracking, and that doesn't happen. Hats off to Oregon. Gotta clap for the Ducks. Hell of a win. That's an unbelievable victory for Oregon. The most significant win for the Ducks in quite some time for the football program. That's going to put them in the playoff conversation if they can keep rolling on in the Pac-12. It's possible. We're going to talk about the game, and then we're talking about what this result means for the college football season as a whole, because this is as to date, obviously, this is the most significant result for the college football season. This might be the most significant result for the entire college football season when we get to December and the selection show. Ducks missing 5 defensive starters, including the best player in the nation, and they were able to hold the Buckeyes to 4 touchdowns. Phenomenal performance. I welcome everyone into the stream. We're going to have a long conversation, about an hour or so. I want to hear your thoughts about the game. I want to hear what you think about it all. Welcome, one and all. Go follow all the Voice of College Football channels. Follow the man, Mark Rogers himself. Follow this Buckeye channel, this Big Ten channel, this Oregon channel. Any team you like or want to know more about, you follow that channel. You hit the subscribe button and hit the like button on the videos. Hit the like button on this video. If you want to super chat, more than welcome to. You don't have to if you don't want to. But man, Ohio State's defense, a disappointing performance to say the least. They couldn't get a stop. They couldn't get a stop. It couldn't happen. And they gave up 3 touchdowns on the same play, on 3 runs to the left, a pitch and 2 handoffs to the left. Oh, there you go. Touchdown. There you go. Missed targeting call ended up being the difference. I don't know about that. The missed targeting was an egregious missed call. I mean, the defender basically headbutted Olave's spine Zidane style, and I was very surprised. So, gave up 3 touchdowns to the same play and then an important 4th down to that same play. There you go. And, God, that 4th down, Dylan brings up that play. Ohio State called a timeout on that 4th down, and Oregon false started. So they took Oregon off the hook. If there was a false start, it would have been 4th and 6. And OSU called the timeout, and then Oregon scored. Oh, my God. Yeah, but here's the thing. Freshman quarterback playing in his second game. He played his ass off in the second half. He did great in the second half. He started off slow again. To me, the difference in this game, the defense was not good enough. That's obvious. They couldn't stop him. Can't stop the same play 3 times. That's inexcusable. But the offense was too slow at the start. If the offense played the way they did in the second half and the first half, and we said this last week against Minnesota, it's the same thing. If they started the first half faster, we might be talking about a different ball game. Ohio State had 612 total yards of offense. What was C.J. Stroud's stats? Sure, you could classify them maybe as garbage time because the Buckeyes had to throw the ball a lot, sure. But still, C.J. Stroud, second game, first game at the shoe against a ranked good team who still has a good defense. Yes, they're missing their best players. But Stroud was 35 of 54 for 484 yards and 3 touchdowns. He made an interception on, I think, one of his last throws in the game. That was a bad interception to give up. He should have thrown the ball out of bounds. I don't know if we see the second and third strings getting a shot. I think Stroud has the job. Stroud played well again in the second half. That's the way that I see it. I would have loved to see some more running, but at the same time, the trench battle, Oregon won on both sides. The defensive line was able to hit the offensive line pretty well. There were a couple blitzes that worked for them. And then Oregon offensive line was amazing. They kicked OSU's defensive line's behinds. Phenomenal performance. You have to take your hats off to the Ducks. As bad as Ohio State's defense was, the Ducks played great. You saw good composure from Anthony Brown, confident in his decision-making, going through his progressions, making smart throws. He was confident running the ball when he got the chance to. He had 10 carries. CJ Verdell, breakout performance for him. 161 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, the receiving touchdown on the pitch. And to come to Columbus and beat the Buckeyes like that with a phenomenal offensive showing throughout the game and consistently keeping the ball, 505 total yards. I mean, from a game perspective, it's a great game. It was a fun game to watch, especially that second half. It's not the offense's fault. No, it's not the offense's fault. No way. They shouldn't have to compensate like for a defense. This is the OSU to Oklahoma. Yeah. The offense is not at fault for this loss. The defense is more at fault for the loss, but the offense needs to start games quicker. If the offense starts the game quicker, we potentially are looking at a different result. But I don't think Oregon's offense could have been stopped today. Making bad reads on the replays, doesn't seem to be comfortable holding the ball in the Yeah, no, I think, Tyler, you're right. Stroud is a little bit cautious. I still think he has the starting job. Yeah, we might see other QBs get a shot, but yeah, I agree. In the first half there and on many moments, Stroud did not look confident going into gaps, looking for runs. He wasn't doing that a lot in the game. I recall in the first quarter, OSU had a third down near the red zone, and Stroud had, Moses parting the sea lane of space to run through and get a first down, and he didn't run. So needs to have more confidence. I agree. Like we said, he's a freshman, but for a guy that's a freshman, has only played 2 games, and in his 2 college games, he's thrown for 700 or 800 yards combined. He's got 7 touchdown passes. Pretty good. And 28 points for the Ohio State offense is low. So Oregon defense, the Oregon defense played well too. This OSU offense is they're going to score 40, 50 points or something like that. No way, 28. That's it. And 3 of their touchdowns came in the second half. What was the score at halftime? 14-7? Yeah, 14-7 at halftime. 3 touchdowns in the second half, all behind. The Buckeyes never had the lead in this game. Never had the lead. There was a few wide open passes he missed, sure, but the stat line and I think the second half speaks for itself. But quicker starts for the offense for the Buckeyes, and maybe, just maybe, they can salvage the season, because a loss like this, honestly, we'll get to that discussion a little bit later. This might be a loss that potentially ends the Buckeyes' chances of getting to the college football playoff. We'll talk about where that sort of falls into place. I'm really interested in those kind of scenario talks, and this loss for sure really opens the door wide to a lot of different possibilities for how OSU potentially could salvage their season and how Oregon might be on their way to the playoff, potentially. But yeah, OSU receivers are sick. You've got Smith and Jigba, 145 yards. Olave had 126. You got 3 receivers over 100 yards. So, yeah, I know everyone's hating on Terry Coombs. I get that. No adjustments. I think right there, no adjustments. You have to adjust at some point. You can't get beaten by the same running play 3 times in the same game that leads to touchdowns. You have to adjust. Have to adjust. Not sold on CJ. Way too many overthrown passes. There were definitely some overthrows, absolutely. Doesn't have the confidence to run. Needs to develop more, but he's doing some things positively. That's the thing. It's not all bad for CJ Stroud. The defense, on the other hand, there's not a lot of things to say that are positive. You can say some positive about CJ Stroud in these first 2 games. On the defensive side of things, you can't. And it goes to show, against Minnesota, Muhammad Ibrahim gets injured in the 3rd quarter. So there goes Minnesota's best offensive player, their best way to move the ball down the field and attack. As soon as he was gone, Minnesota's offense couldn't do anything. So Ohio State's defense basically had a walk in the park. Oregon's offense, nobody gets injured. Easy. They were able to just run down their throats. Easy. Thomas was not pressured once. I don't think he was sacked one time. One time. But that's the thing, Zachary. I think, there wasn't enough rushing, but I'd like to have seen more runs. Stroud had 54 throws. Between Williams and Henderson, they had 26 carries. Like, I would have liked to see Travion Henderson get a couple more carries. I would have liked to see Williams maybe get a few more looks. So the play calling was not great. I think Nick, as an Oregon fan, you should be really proud. I think Oregon fans should be super amped up with a result like this. To go to Columbus with 100,000 fans cheering against you, beat the Buckeyes at home for the first time they've lost at home in 4 years, with 2 5-star players hurt. Hell of a win for Oregon. They should be so happy with this. They should. I'm happy for the Oregon fans. Good for you. Get to celebrate. OSU has been spoiled with the bosses in Chase and Fields, so they haven't properly built the defense up. Right. So this year, it's kind of been proven that the guys might need to adjust more. They'll have to grow into their roles. Whereas this past few years, OSU just had these God-given athletes that just instantly impacted, like Chase Young and Justin Fields. So, man, oh man. Yeah, no, the scheme was bad too. They played so much man and they didn't adjust. You got to adjust. If something's not working, you have to change it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Literally, you have to adjust. You have to find a way to fix something if it's not working. And it didn't happen. And it cost the Buckeyes a win. I think it's nuts that we're sitting here in early September talking about an OSU loss. It's something that hasn't happened to the Buckeyes. I mean, if somebody wants to look this up, or we can look it up ourselves. I'm going to look this up myself. We're going to go here. We're going to do a little research. We're going to look at the Ohio State Buckeye seasons. We're going to find out when's the last time they lost in September. Was it the Oklahoma game? If anybody knows off the top of their head, you can say it in the chat. Yeah, no, the refs didn't do anything terrible today. I mean, the no targeting call was unfortunate. I thought it should have been targeting. It was a clear targeting for me. But yeah, it wasn't the difference in the game. I think that's ridiculous. All right, let's figure out. Not putting blame 100 on the defense line, you're football ignorant. Lawrence Taylor wouldn't have made a difference. Yeah, no. The defensive line was not good enough. Didn't get any pressure on Oregon. Oregon offensive line shut them down completely. Is that the last September loss? I think Neil's got it. Yeah, there it is. September 9th, 2017, when Baker Mayfield beat Ohio State in Columbus. That's the last time the Buckeyes lost in the month of September. It's been 4 years. Paul, thank you so much for the $10 super chat, man. Let's see what you got to say. Y'all asking for the other QB, like it's going to make a difference when the D keeps giving up points. Plus, CJ, really a great quarterback. Honestly, he needs to warm up games, but didn't get them. I think Paul kind of nails it on the head. Is another quarterback going to come in and save this team and have them win out? Not necessarily. I don't think so. CJ is the best option. It's the defense, man. Hashtag fire Coombs. That's what everyone's gonna say. Nobody wants Coombs there as the as the defensive coordinator. No way. But Paul, I appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you so much. Hope you're enjoying the content. Make sure, guys, to follow Voice of College Football. Follow whatever channel you want for your favorite team or teams you're interested in more in-depth coverage on. Follow our guy Mark at the main Voice of College Football channel. Live streams, talk. Best place for college football content on YouTube. Go over there. Yeah, this is the first regular season loss. The first regular season loss in Ryan Day's head coaching career. He's never lost in the regular season until today. Only other losses were in the playoffs. Yeah, the QB change it's not going to fix the team. It's the quarterback is not the problem. The defense is the problem. The scheme is bad. The players are not executing. It's not good enough. The defense was not good enough. Every single drive you thought Oregon was going to score. That's the way it felt. Every single time Oregon got the ball, you felt they were going to score. Likewise, in the second half, you thought every time Ohio State would get the ball, they would score. But they were down a touchdown going into the break. Unfortunate. Virginia Tech. Yeah, Virginia Tech was a September loss too. That was was Ryan Day the head coach for the Ohio State Virginia Tech game? When was that Virginia Tech game? Virginia Tech, Ohio State, 2015. The game was in 2015. Wasn't Urban Meyer still the coach in 2015, if I recall correctly? 2015 Ohio State football. Urban Meyer was the coach in 2015. No, they beat Virginia Tech then. So what was it, 2016? Urban Meyer. No. 2014. Oh, 2014. Okay, gotcha. 2014. 2014 Urban was the coach. Yeah, this is the first regular season loss for Ryan Day. It was Urban Meyer in 2014. Yeah. That's when they won the national championship. And that kind of brings the question. Last time Ohio State won a national championship, they got to the playoff with one loss. How does that happen again? That is the $1 billion question now for Ohio State football fans. How does Ohio State realistically get to the college football playoff with this loss? First things first, in my humble opinion, and you could comment your opinions. I'm curious to see what you guys think. He's got to win out. You got to win out. That's the only thing Ohio State has to do. They can't lose another game. If they lose another game, the season's over. They have no chance of making the playoff with 2 losses. No, not this year. You have to win the Big Ten. You have to beat Tulsa, Akron, Rutgers, Maryland. You have to win out the rest of your games. You have to win the Big Ten championship. You need help. You probably need help too. Because let's face it, in a world where Ohio State has 1 loss and potentially doesn't win the Big Ten, Penn State could scoop in and win the Big Ten potentially. That's possible. We have to see who sort of arises as the biggest challenger to the Buckeyes in the Big Ten. I think Penn State is a worthy candidate. If Iowa wins today, Iowa too. We have to think about Iowa. We have to think about Penn State as well. So certainly going to be interesting to see what happens in this Iowa State game. Because if Iowa wins, then boy, oh boy, the Hawkeyes have all the momentum going forward to win the Big Ten. That's the thing. But here's the thing, Ryan. I think the Big Ten is strong enough for a 1-loss team to get into the playoff. But the issue that I'm thinking about is the possibility that 2 SEC teams get in. Exactly. No, I think if Iowa's undefeated and wins the Big Ten, Iowa will make the playoff. Absolutely. There's no 2 ways about that. But in a world where Ohio State has 1 loss and you have an undefeated SEC champion and a 1-loss SEC team, potentially, that could make the playoff. And you could have 2 SEC teams make the playoff. But then you have to look at the potential other teams that could get in there. Like, I'm just going to look at the rankings right now. Like, which teams are going to hop Ohio State after this loss? Oregon at 12, I would hope that the committee is smart enough to hop them pretty high after a win like this. This is a huge win for them. I would say Oregon should at least be in the top 8, at minimum top 8 after a win like this. Whether or not they hop over Cincinnati or Notre Dame is to be seen. I think Oregon's proven that they should hop over Cincinnati or Notre Dame with a win at Ohio State. It's just so difficult to win in Columbus. It's been proven. Oklahoma's going to hop over Ohio State. They're not going to lose today, I don't think. Texas A&M playing Colorado. Colorado's winning. So that's the thing. Ohio State needs help. They need teams to lose. They need A&M to probably lose a game. They need probably 2 SEC teams to lose games. Yeah, if you beat an undefeated Iowa, you could see the Buckeyes get in there. But what if Oregon goes undefeated? That to me is where things are going to get complicated. Let's say this scenario happens. Iowa's undefeated going into the Big Ten championship. Ohio State beats them. If you have Alabama, maybe Clemson, potentially, even though they have a loss, but it's to Georgia, so it's considered a good loss in a ways, because Georgia's a great team. And you're fighting for that last spot. Ohio State, 1 loss, beats Iowa in the Big Ten championship. Oregon finishes the season undefeated in the Pac-12 and wins the Pac-12 championship. I think the committee would pick Oregon because Oregon's undefeated and beat Ohio State. Even though Oregon's schedule is difficult. But that's the thing. The way after the Ducks played Fresno and barely won, I was pretty worried about Oregon. I think now I'm convinced that Fresno Bull Thomas, man, I love that. Fresno State, national champions. Fresno State's going to win the whole freaking thing. Oregon's a good loss. No, I totally agree. Oregon's a good loss. But if the final playoff spot is between an undefeated Pac-12 champion Oregon Ducks team and a 1-loss Big Ten champion Buckeyes team, I feel like the committee would pick Oregon in the scenario that those 2 teams are the 2 teams fighting for the last spot. Because let's face it, out of all the teams in the country right now, the only team that I'm fairly certain is going to make the playoff is Alabama. And then it's a toss-up between if Oklahoma potentially gets in, Clemson, another SEC team, Ohio State, or a Big Ten team like OSU, Iowa, Penn State. An Iowa win. The worst case scenario, I think, for OSU in the Iowa State game is Iowa wins. Because if Iowa loses, then at the very least, one of the best teams in the Big Ten is also sitting there with a loss on their record. No, I get it. There's no precedent. I know there's no precedent, but potentially now, with a win against Ohio State, there might be a precedent. Like, yes, Oregon doesn't really have an incredibly difficult schedule upcoming. I mean, the toughest games on their schedule right now, looking at it, at UCLA, that's a huge game for Oregon if they can stay unbeaten until October 23rd. At Utah, another big game. At Washington, obviously, a big game as well, even though Washington lost to Montana. That's tough. But that's the thing. I feel like in a situation, Oregon beats Ohio State, and Ohio State has 1 loss and beats. Oregon. I would pick Oregon over Ohio State too. They beat them, and that just brings up a whole even bigger conversation about the way playoff is selected and the way college football is as a whole. It's just an entire huge conversation at that point where we're getting into, the parts of the sport where it's so difficult to determine who the best team is or to determine who should get in the playoff because, these teams are playing other teams. There's not a consistent schedule, whereas in professional sports or in other sports, you see teams play each other in a whole sort of league format in a way. But man, oh man, who would have thought this would happen? But for Oregon to make the playoff, but that I think will be the interesting thing. Oregon has this win over Ohio State. Huge resume booster. If they lose, I don't know how much. If they lose any of the rest of their games, I don't know where they would stand. That's the big question. I don't know. Because until UCLA, Oregon's got Stony Brook, Arizona, Stanford, and California. I would think that those are winnable games for Oregon, especially if their top defensive guys are back. I would think that Oregon will probably be able to win those games. UCLA, again, is going to be a tough challenge. UCLA has proven to be a pretty good team. But this blows the playoff discussion wide open. Blows the discussion wide open for the playoff with the fact that OSU lose, which the other interesting thing is I can't even remember the last time that the playoff was sort of, or the expected playoff was kind of blown up in our face this early in the season. Like, I know we've had early September games where top 5, top 10 teams play each other, but those teams are usually still in the conversation when we get to December. Ohio State's still going to be in the conversation, I think, come December if they win out. If they lose, one loss, it's over. Ohio State can't lose 2 games and expect to make the playoff. I'm going to change up here a little bit. There's some Big Ten scores for you guys. Notre Dame's losing to Toledo. Well, that's hilarious. Notre Dame, and there's the other thing. Daniel brings up Notre Dame. What about Notre Dame? What if Notre Dame goes undefeated? Are they going to be put in the playoff again and then get blown out by Alabama again? Because you look at Notre Dame's schedule. I mean, let's see Notre Dame's schedule. They're playing Wisconsin. They're playing Cincinnati. They're playing Virginia Tech. They're playing USC. They're playing North Carolina. After they play Purdue next Saturday, they're playing 5 consecutive games against ranked opposition in the regular season. If they win all those games and finish the season undefeated, who's to say the committee's not going to put the Fighting Irish in the playoff again, only to get obliterated again in the semifinal? So that's another team that Ohio State probably has to keep a watchful eye on. We'll be lucky to beat any good team this year with this pathetic D. Well, that and what other good teams are Ohio State playing this year other than Oregon? So I would say the next toughest game is Indiana. Even though they got shellacked by Iowa, Indiana is still a pretty decent team. Penn State is probably the toughest game when you look at the rest of the season, unless Michigan turns out to be good again, which who the hell knows. If Ohio State loses a second game before Michigan, then at that point the season's just built for the future. I think NBA fans said it best. Put the program in a better position for the future. Yours is the future. If we're going to have mistakes from the QB spot, I'd rather it be yours because the better upside in the extra year, he has to say, get his mistakes out of the way now. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see Quinn get a shot if you plan for the future. But I don't think this team is in the position yet to start playing guys to plan for the future. If they lose another game, then fine. You can start, I would say then you can start playing younger guys, get them experience, get Henderson some more carries, maybe get Quinn some reps, prep guys for the 2022 season. But all things hopeful, the season is not over yet. It's not over yet. They need help and they need to win the rest of their games, but it's not over. At least they didn't lose to Montana or an FCS team like other FBS teams have done. But because if OSU, let's say if OSU lost to Tulsa, like if they beat Oregon but then lost to Tulsa, forget about it. We'd be talking about an OSU team that's 2-1 that definitely is not making the playoff because a loss to Tulsa is so unthinkably horrible and unimaginable that you could never put Ohio State in the playoff after losing to Tulsa or Akron. Like a bad loss. The silver lining is that this is a decent loss. You lost to a decent team. Yes, it was at home, and that's really going to go against them. The fact that they lost at home to Oregon. Not discount MSU. Yeah, we'll see about MSU. Big win today against who'd they play? Youngstown State. We'll see about them Spartans. We'll see how the Big Ten kind of develops over the next couple of weeks. And this is a Big Ten season that is certainly probably more intriguing than Big Ten seasons have been in the past, because now that Ohio State has a loss, opens the opportunity for other teams to sneak in and get into the conversation, like Michigan State potentially, like Penn State, Iowa. Maybe Wisconsin rallies back after losing to Penn State last week. So we'll see. Rather see OSU rise and fall as Quinn develops as a true freshman. That's getting 2016 with CJ. Yeah, I guess it depends on what you would rather see. Some people want, early loss. You see that the season is sort of in a position where I don't know if we can win now. You develop for the future. Not a really tanking mentality, but a development mentality. I still think they should go for it. I think every season you have to play, like you need to win the national championship. If you're Ohio State, you play every season to compete to win the national championship. They can still win the national championship. Hell, it's going to be really hard, and I don't think they're going to win the national championship. Yes, it's still possible. Anything's possible. But no, I don't think they'll win the national championship, but I think it's okay now to still go for a healthy shot at it. I think this Buckeye team is still capable of winning the rest of their games this season. If the defense improves and the offense actually plays well in the first half, this team can win games comfortably. They didn't beat Minnesota comfortably until the fourth quarter, really, and they lost to Oregon. Yeah, the defensive line got no pressure today. Oregon was able to do whatever the hell they wanted, running the ball to the left, running the ball to the right, running the ball through the middle, whatever they wanted to do. Incredible. Rutgers not soft, dude. Ryan, I am all Rutgers, man. I am a big Rutgers person. I went to the University of Illinois, so as an Illinois fan as well as an Ohio State fan, the Illini have never been good at football since I've been there. And anytime we played Rutgers, we called it Illini Nutgers or whatever. Big Rutgers guy here. They scored 61 points against Temple. They're going to beat Syracuse today. They're winning right now, I think. No, they just gave up a touchdown in the third quarter. 7-7. Dude, Rutgers for the national championship. It's going to happen. They're playing the Delaware Blue Hens next week. Then they're going to play Michigan and Ohio State. Oh, it's easy. Scarlet Knights all the way. Scarlet Knights all the way. If your team loses to a Pac-12 team, do you really deserve to be in the playoff picture? I don't know. And that brings up another point in the conversation as well. After a win like this, should we take the Pac-12 seriously again? I know people think the Pac-12 is kind of a joke because recently the Pac-12 has not really produced any big-time teams, but early days this year, the Pac-12 has got some decent squads. I don't know about national championship squads. I don't think anybody can beat Alabama. I think Alabama at this point is going to run away with it. Oklahoma defense is worrying nobody. UCLA is a good team. UCLA has been playing really well. Huge win over LSU last week. Utah's good. Oregon is fantastic, as proven. If Washington loses to Michigan, then the Huskies are nowhere to be seen anymore. They were ranked last week, lose to Montana. Then if they go to Ann Arbor and lose to Michigan tonight, I don't know about that. Pac-12 to the top. But a win like this certainly has people maybe taking the Pac-12 a little bit more seriously. And I think the committee will look into that. If we're towards the middle of the season, if Oregon and UCLA are both undefeated when they play each other, and what could potentially, by that point, maybe be a top 10 game, if both teams are undefeated, they're going to take the Pac-12 seriously. Who's to say they're not? I mean, I want to see I'm going to look at UCLA's schedule because I want to see who UCLA is playing before they play Oregon. UCLA's got Fresno State on the 18th because UCLA has a bye week this week. At Stanford, Arizona State, who's ranked. Can't forget about Arizona State. Then Arizona, then Washington, then Oregon. So a couple of Trump games there. At Stanford could be interesting. At Arizona State at home, ranked game right now. At Washington, we'll have to see what Washington's up to. SEC still the cream of the crop. SEC is still the best conference in football. I mean, I'm a Big Ten guy myself, but it's fair to say that the SEC is the best conference out there in the country. Auburn has been on fire. They haven't played anybody, but Auburn has scored 122 points and only given up 10. Alabama's playing Mercer in a national powerhouse rivalry game. I would expect Mercer to really take it to the Crimson Tide. I think it's going to be a close one. I think Alabama really needs games like Mercer to really test them and challenge them for their schedule before they play a team like Florida, which should be a cakewalk for them. Alabama should be able to score maybe, 65 points against Mercer, make it a basketball score, something like that. Who else is going to be decent in the SEC? Florida, obviously. We'll see about Ole Miss. Big win against Louisville on Monday. Texas A&M, of course. Yeah. A lot of interesting questions. Texas A&M are still losing? Wait, let me check the score. Yeah, let's just take a quick look at the scores. We've got a thriller, by the way. Northern Illinois and Wyoming. I know you all care about this. 43-42 lead for Northern Illinois. What a game that is. Rutgers has a lead against Syracuse, huge. Virginia Tech's winning. Notre Dame is losing to Toledo, 16-14. Notre Dame losing is big for Ohio State. If you're a Buckeye fan, Ohio State, you need Notre Dame to lose. Because if Notre Dame goes undefeated with the schedule that they have, the committee's going to put them in the playoff again. They don't care what the results have been in the past. Cincinnati tied with Murray State, the home of John Morant, of course. Georgia's already up 28-0 in the second quarter. Penn State's winning. California's beating TCU. Nebraska hasn't scored against Buffalo because Nebraska's terrible. Texas A&M losing to Colorado 7-0. Alabama already has 14 points against Mercer. Look at that. Florida won. Yeah, no, the drama in the alliance is real, David, and the Pac-12 is making some noise. If Colorado beats Texas A&M, this is the Saturday for the Pac-12. Cal beats TCU, Colorado beats A&M, Oregon beats Ohio State. You can't tell me the Pac-12 is a joke. That is 3 quality wins for the conference, and the committee will take the conference seriously. I think they'll start doing it now. Oregon beating Ohio State being the most significant win. But if Colorado's able to keep things up against A&M, Cal can beat TCU, tell me about it. Pac-12 is here. Pac-12 might get them, sneak their way, a team into the playoff. Things might get competitive over there. And it should be fun to watch. Like now, one thing, I mean, I am an Ohio State fan, but one thing I will say about this loss, if you're a general college football fan, and I'm a general college football fan too, it's nice to have some intrigue in the season. For the past couple of years, I think college football seasons have sort of gotten to this point where it's like, all right, we know Bama's in, we know Clemson's in, we know Ohio State's in. Who's going to be the 4th team? Another SEC team? Is it going to be Oklahoma? A loss like this, you add some intrigue into the season. Ohio State loses in week 2. Okay. Does a Pac-12 team sneak back in? What about maybe Notre Dame if they're undefeated? Now there's a bit more of a question of who those 4 teams, maybe who 3 teams are going to be. I think Alabama's still a cinch. But I think you add a little more intrigue into the season. What about Texas? We'll see about Texas too. I think Alex brings up a good point. We'll see about Iowa State. Whoever wins Iowa State, Iowa is potentially going to be a top 5 team by Monday. I mean, what the top 5 is probably going to look, what I'm thinking the top 5 will look like. Alabama will be number 1. They're not losing to Mercer. I'm sorry, Mercer fans, it's not happening. Georgia will win. They're already up 4 touchdowns against UAB. They'll stay number 2. If Oklahoma wins, Oklahoma will probably go to number 3 unless they don't win super convincingly because of the poor performance they had against Tulane. Texas A&M, right now, the way Texas A&M's playing, I don't know if they grab a 3 or a 4 spot. What will be interesting is how far they drop Ohio State. How much do the writers in the AP poll drop Ohio State after losing to Oregon? Good fella, thank you so much for the $5. I really appreciate it, buddy. Good show. What's going on with the ACC? Yeah, ACC. What's going to be happening with them Clemson Tigers? I mean, Clemson lost to Georgia, so that's the thing. Clemson is in a position where they don't maybe – Clemson will have to win out, obviously. You can't put a 2-loss Clemson team in the playoff, I don't think. But I'm looking at the rest of the ACC. The only teams that really come to mind that I think compete for a playoff spot are maybe Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech and right now I would have Virginia Tech and Clemson as the ACC championship game. The way things are going currently, Oregon should be number 3. Maybe. It'd be interesting to see if they put Oregon at number 3. I don't think they will. But it's interesting because the teams that are above Oregon right now, A&M right now is losing, struggling currently. Clemson has a loss. Cincinnati is destroying. So Cincinnati might be in the top 5. Notre Dame is struggling right now, so they might not have a convincing enough win to pop higher than 8. But then where do you put the winner of Iowa State, Iowa, depending on how that game goes? If the game is close, I don't know. If the game is close and we have the winner of the close game, you might put them at 6, maybe 7. It's going to be very interesting to see how many teams Oregon hops over and where they put Ohio State. I think Ohio State is still going to be in the top 10. I think Ohio State stays in the top 10. No, looking at it now, I don't know. Looking at it now, it's actually a good question. What do you guys think? Should Ohio State stay in the top 10? Because whoever loses Iowa State, Iowa drops out, and they're going to hop up. Penn State will be undefeated, probably. They're going to probably win, so they would hop up. Obviously, Oregon's going to be in the top 10 now. So you probably have two teams that are added into the top 10. I think Oregon might be at 5 or 6, but not 3. Yeah, I don't think they'll be 3. I don't think the committee hypes them up that much. I mean, well, committee, it's not the committee. It's the writers, AP voters. So put us at 7 or 8, yeah. Say OSU 7. Yeah, I think 7. I think of all the teams that Ohio State is ranked above in the current ranking, I don't see the committee putting the Buckeyes under Cincinnati. That's sort of where the threshold is for me. I can see Oklahoma being above OSU. I can see A&M if they win. I can see Clemson if they win, because Clemson's loss you would classify probably as a better loss than OSU's loss, because Clemson lost to Georgia in a game that was a 10-3. But I don't think they'd put OSU below Cincinnati, which is going to piss off Bearcat fans, because the Bearcats are going to be undefeated and potentially ranked still below Ohio State. But I think the rankings will truly be dependent of Iowa State, how that game goes. If there's a route in that, like if Iowa destroys Iowa State today on the road for a second straight like big victory because they killed Indiana, if they kill Iowa State on the road, they might put Iowa in the top 5. Do I think Oregon ahead of OSU? See, that's the tough one too, Brian. I like that question. That's a tough one as well. I don't know. I think because of the fact that you have a top 10 game, I don't know. I don't think so. It'll be interesting. Eye test tells me no, they should not be in the, yeah, from an eye test standpoint, they should not be in the top 10. There's too many questions on the ball, and in the coaching department, they'll be in the top 10, but I don't think they deserve it. No, I don't think they do either. And I know Mark posted a video. You guys should watch that video about the true top 25 based just purely on results, not about eye test or expectations, preseason expectations. Where is it now? Based purely on results of the season, Ohio State should not be in the top 10. Absolutely. Oregon should definitely be higher. Yes, they struggled against Fresno State. And that could be something that comes back to bite the Ducks in the butt when we get to December. If Oregon finishes the season undefeated but has like an iffy win against Fresno State, maybe that comes back to bite them. I don't think it does at the end of the day. It all depends on how the Ducks play the rest of the season. But yeah, everybody struggled in week 1 except for Alabama. Alabama's the only team that didn't struggle in week 1. Can we all just concede that Alabama's going to win the national championship again? Can we just concede that the title race is over? Title race is over. Alabama's won the national championship. I mean, I need to see Alabama's schedule. Let's see Alabama's schedule. Florida, okay. Ole Miss, A&M, Auburn. They don't play Georgia in the regular season. That's big. They don't play Georgia in the regular season. If they play Georgia, they'll play them in the SEC championship game. Makes things interesting. But I'm with Brian. I think there's a real conversation if Oregon goes undefeated for them to get into the national championship, because they'll have quality wins against OSU. They'd have a pretty decent win against UCLA. Interesting to see, but I think Oregon's got a shot. And if they finish undefeated, they should definitely be in the conversation. But they need help. Oregon and Ohio State to get into the playoff. I think Oregon still needs the help. They don't control their own destiny kind of the same way that Alabama does, the same way that Oklahoma does. Because if Oklahoma and Alabama finish undefeated, they're getting into the playoff. They control their own destiny for the committee to put them in the top 4. Notre Dame doesn't fully control their own destiny. They need to finish undefeated, but they also need help from teams losing a little bit. Ohio State goes undefeated, or whoever finishes the Big Ten undefeated, usually they control their own destiny too, and they get in the playoff. They should rank teams until October. By then, you can see who is really good, who is playing consistently well, and how things are shaking out. That's a good point, David. That would be interesting if they started doing that. I mean, it makes sense why the committee doesn't start ranking till what, November? Early November? But yeah, then you get a better idea of how good teams really are, rather than ranking teams before we've even seen them play. But yeah, right now UCLA has a good resume for beating LSU and being undefeated. If Oregon beats a UCLA team with a good resume when that game happens, then the Ducks case just gets even better. And even for UCLA, if UCLA beat Oregon, if UCLA's undefeated beats Oregon, who beat Ohio State, the Bruins might be laughing about that. That would be huge. May I add the 12-team playoff? I want an expanded playoff. I think it'd be fun. Very difficult for any team to go undefeated. The Ducks always lay an egg, no pun intended, once or twice a year. Yeah, we have to see if they lay an egg. Obviously, all this talk is hypothetical. I think it's interesting to discuss this stuff. But, yeah, just got their help with this loss. All they have to do is run the table and they're in. Well, all they have to do. Notre Dame has a much tougher schedule than Ohio State does the rest of the way. We mentioned Notre Dame has 5 consecutive games against current ranked opposition. That Notre Dame-Cincinnati game is going to be massive. Even though Cincinnati might finish undefeated, they might not make the playoff, which is a shame. OSU defense is terrible. Awful performance defensively. But between OSU and Notre Dame, OSU has a much easier schedule than Notre Dame in terms of the middle chunk. Notre Dame's playing some good teams. Ohio State is too, but not as many good teams as Notre Dame, I think. I think Ohio State's next toughest game is going to be against Indiana. Rutgers could be a slight curveball, but I don't think realistically Ohio State's going to have trouble against Rutgers. God, unless the defense keeps on being terrible. Tulsa and Akron, you can't. If you lose to Tulsa and Akron, then forget about it. Take OSU out of the alliance, to get them out of the Big Ten, start their own conference with I don't know, West Virginia or something. Don't see us in the playoffs this year. Right now, I don't see OSU in the playoff. I would agree. If I was a betting man right now, I probably would bet that Ohio State would not make the playoff. But anything can happen. If Penn State loses a game, if Iowa loses to Iowa State or loses a game this season, if Michigan State loses a game, if the whole Big Ten's not undefeated, they got a shot. They got a shot. But they need help. It's not they don't control their own destiny to get in the playoff anymore. And it's the first time they haven't really had that advantage in years, because they haven't lost in September in 4 years. Man, how'd you feel about Oregon's secondary against the best wide receiver room in the nation? They did okay. I think they did well in the first half, but goodness gracious, 3 Ohio State receivers had 100+ yards. CJ Stroud was chucking the ball all over the field. But I'd be happy. If you're Oregon, you're happy about the team's performance. To me, even if Oregon's defense was letting up more points or had some mistakes, I would forget about those at this point. This is a huge win for Oregon. This is the biggest win Oregon's had since, God, beating Florida State in the Rose Bowl in 2015, maybe? I can't think. They crushed Jameis Winston, where they scored 59 points. The defense obliterated him, and then they lost OSU in the championship. This is a huge win for the Ducks. This puts them really back into the national conversation for being amongst the top teams in the country. Cal's up 19-7 against TCU. Interesting. No playbook. Yeah, I don't know. Stroud, I think, plays the rest of the season. I don't think Quinn is going to play this season, in my opinion. I don't think that's where we're at right now. I think Quinn, you set him up maybe for next year. Who knows? Who knows about that? Did the Iowa game start? The Iowa game did start. Oh, and like every other high-ranked game this season in college football, it's 0-0 in the first quarter. It's going to end 0-0 in the first quarter. Georgia Clemson, 0-0 in the first quarter. Wisconsin Penn State, 0-0 in the first quarter. OSU Oregon, 0-0 in the first quarter. Only Alabama. Alabama is incredible. You can't say enough good things about how good that football program and that team is. It's absolutely ridiculous. Nick Saban's one of the greatest coaches in sports history. But the Pac-12, making some noise, man. But right now, watch out for Toledo. The Toledo Rockets might give Ohio a win today in college football. They're up 16-14 against Notre Dame. Fighting Irish lose to Toledo. You can kiss the playoff goodbye, Fighting Irish fans. Your hope is done. You can't lose to Toledo at home and expect to make the playoff. But let's face it, for Notre Dame would never make the playoff with a loss, ever, because they're an independent. They need a conference championship to help their case. But losing to a team like Toledo, no way in hell Notre Dame gets in the playoff. And if you're Ohio State, right now, root for Toledo. Toledo beats Notre Dame, Ohio State's chances get better. Just like that, hours after a loss to Oregon. So a win for Toledo would be big. Any other surprising score lines other than Cal? Hey, Nebraska scored a touchdown. Good for them. Texas A&M still hasn't scored against Colorado. That's not good for Texas A&M. I've also got I'm watching the U.S. Open final right now. I've got a little bit of tennis on. 3:36 remaining in the first half. Notre Dame still losing. God, man. Notre Dame's got to wake up. But, yeah, this has been a good talk. I appreciate the super chats, guys. Guys, like the video. Watch the stream after. Tell your friends about it. Tell them about the conversations we had. Go watch the other post-game shows later today around the Voice of College Football Network. Do it. You should subscribe to the channels. You should go like their videos. You should do all the things for Voice of College Football. Follow everything. Subscribe to everything. Like everything. Helps to support the channel. Helps support this phenomenal network of college football content across the YouTubes. Revolutionary platform. Texas A&M, oh, goodness gracious. Texas A&M offense, 4 of 10 for 21 yards for their backup QB. Oh, God, that is dreadful. That is absolutely dreadful. Let me have a quick look at what the schedule for next week looks like. What's week 3 looking like for college football? What are the big games in week 3? UCF Louisville. The mighty Northern Illinois Michigan Bowl. Michigan State Miami could be fun. VT West Virginia, fun. Nebraska Oklahoma, of course. Cincy Indiana, interesting. Alabama Florida is probably the biggest game next week that I can think of. Yeah, probably Alabama Florida. South Carolina Georgia is interesting. Oregon's playing the mighty Stony Brook. Wow, what a game that will be. Oh man. Yeah, I appreciate that, Ryan. Thanks for the compliment. I was on the game. Fans were chanting, oh my God, B-Dog. You could hear that from here. I was watching the game on TV. I heard BS. That was a loud BS chant. And I've heard loud BS chants in my day at soccer games and football games. But that might be the loudest. I heard it from here. I live 20 miles away from the stadium and I could hear it from here. Man. They were not happy. The fans were not happy. The stadium got quiet a lot today. A lot. But next week, Ohio State will return to the shoe of the horse. They'll be at home against the mighty Tulsa. What a game that should be. Jeff is happy. You should be happy, Jeff. Congrats on the dub. Way to go, Oregon. Good sports we are here. All the Buckeye. Well, I'm a good sport as a Buckeye fan. Congrats, Oregon. Hell of a win. You should be very happy for that win. You cut apart a terrible Ohio State defense. You kept up the pressure, and you won. Good for you. Awesome. What do you think of Maryland's chance to win 7-8 games? Schedule isn't too terrible, and they have a legit quarterback. Let's see. What is Maryland's good old schedule look like? What are the Terrapins going to get up to this year? Oh, they're playing the Illini. They play the Illini, they lose. Illini will beat them. No question about it. Definitely not. Maryland will destroy Illinois and Champaign. Iowa's a tough game. OSU's a tough game. Penn State's a tough game. Okay. Sorry, I moved my computer down there because I got it in front of a monitor. I was looking at the schedule. Probably not the best idea. Sorry you had to see that. I don't know if Maryland wins 7 or 8. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. That should have been targeting. Olave was totally targeted. I said it at the beginning. I'll say it again now for anybody who's just coming in. He got Zidaned in the spine. And if you don't get that reference, look up Zinedine Zidane World Cup headbutt. Very famous, very infamous moment in soccer history in the World Cup when a French player headbutted an Italian just in the middle of a game. Just walked up in front of him and just headbutted him. That's what happened. The Oregon defender headbutted Olave's spine and didn't get called for targeting. So, boy, oh boy. Could have won if they called it. See, that's the thing. I'm not going to say, I mean, yeah, we could. Ohio State could have won if they called the targeting, sure. But a touchdown in that situation doesn't win Ohio State the game. It ties the game. So, to me, it's kind of tough. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, guys. It's okay to make mistakes. Everyone does it. Nobody's perfect. Ohio State's not perfect. Oregon's not perfect. Their record is, but they're not perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for the refs to make a mistake. It's okay, even though they're not supposed to, but it happens. It happens. Robot refs coming? No, that's not going to happen. Anyone hoping for robot refs in any sport, hope for something different, because that's something that probably is not ever going to happen. Maybe in baseball. Maybe there's an automated strike zone in baseball. Maybe. I don't think it's going to happen, though. But I got about 5 minutes left here that I need to actually eat some food. I'm going to go watch the rest of the college football action. Other sports tonight, too. I like all my sports, so I don't just watch the college football. I love college football. I'm going to have all the games on and check out everything going on. I am pumped for tomorrow to watch NFL football. Who is ready to watch Red Zone, sit on their butt, and just watch Red Zone for 7 hours? Hear Scott Hansen say that the most amazing sentence you hear every year, 7 hours of commercial-free football. I am ready for the NFL season to start. I'm ready to see some NFL. I'm ready to see how this college football season plays out. And honestly, Ohio State losing, I think, helps the intrigue of the season. I think it helps the intrigue of the season. Yeah, the ratings are still going to be fine if Ohio State just ran the table the same way it always has been for the last couple of years. But I think you add some really unique intrigue into this season with Ohio State losing, because now it's not like, well, okay, Ohio State makes the playoff. Undefeated, no problem. Now we got something to think about. Now we got something to see how it's going to transpire, whether a Pac-12 team could sneak in there and Ohio State doesn't get in. Make it less interesting if it was a robot? No, robots are super interesting. What are you talking about? Remember the days my Bears play night game? I love that days. Troy over here is a Bears fan. I apologize for the people who are the Bears fans. I'm sorry about your franchise and their offense. That is never good. What NFL games are there tomorrow to be really excited about? Browns and the Chiefs. Hell of a game there. Pittsburgh-Buffalo could be fun. Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer debut in Houston for the Jags. Arizona-Tennessee could be a fun game. Some good offensive players in that one. Chargers and the Washington football team. Green Bay and New Orleans. Chicago and the Rams. Good games. Good NFL football. But I think that's going to be me for the day. Can't really think of much else to say. We've been kind of droning on about how bad OSU is. Seahawks, I'm a Browns fan. It's been a tough life. Seahawks, at least you won a Super Bowl. At least you made it to the playoffs a lot of times. Browns, no, not the same. But yeah, I think that's going to be me for the day. I did want to say one last thing, of course. I think hug your family tighter today. I think it's important. 20-year commemoration of 9/11. I was too young to really remember what happened on the day, but obviously its significance on the United States and the world. The heroes of Flight 93, the first responders in New York and Pennsylvania and in D.C., as well as obviously the people who lost their lives and their families, having a tough time today. I think hug your loved ones tighter today. It's an important day. Never forget what happened on September 11th. And God bless the United States of America. Woo! So that's kind of the way I feel about the day as a whole. I did want to mention that. keep the optimism going. It's important to stay optimistic. It's important to stay positive in the midst of what's been an absolutely insane 2 years. All the crap that's been going on in the outside world with everything. But we can enjoy football. We can have these fun conversations about football. I enjoyed talking to you guys today. I should be good to go for September the 18th for Tulsa. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Keep peeled on Mark's Twitter, on Mark's YouTube posts and everything. Plenty more content coming today for college football. But next up for Ohio State is Tulsa after a surprising loss to the Oregon Ducks at the Horseshoe in Columbus. Have a good rest of your Saturday, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of the football today. Have a good week, too. And stay safe, everybody. It's fun talking.